Hello, team. Welcome to our weekly team member spotlight. We have a very special guest here, somebody that I started working with in 2004, so over 20 years ago. Just one of the best people I know out of Flowtown, Florence, New Jersey. Dave Hutchison. How you doing, Dave?
Good, man. Good to be here, buddy.
Old times, man.
I know. A lot of good, fun stories about all these years.
I mean, when you hear like 22 years,
Yeah.
it's like we're getting old.
Getting old? Yes. Yeah.
crazy.
I'm 50 now, dude, which is hard.
It's crazy.
Crazy. Yeah, so they get a big milestone, but yeah, don't feel it, thank God.
That's awesome. So when we met, I'll give everybody a little bit of context. Dave and I worked in a call center, and we worked for a company called American Residential Mortgage. They were the division we worked in was a lending tree shop, and I came there in 2004-ish, and Dave had been there, been part of a group of guys that were there. But so that's a little bit of the context. We're talking like pre-financial crisis, whole different mortgage world. But let's talk about like your story of how you got in the mortgage business. And it kind of predates the mortgage industry. It really goes back to your...
Goes back. Yeah, it goes back to my mom, yeah. So when I was 18, so my mom's been, realtor, as you know, for like 45 years now, so, which is crazy. She's on her like fourth generation. They have families now.
Crazy.
Just crazy to say. But she's still kicking ass and everything. So, but with her, so when I turned 18, I got my real estate license. When out, I would go sell the, show the properties. I'd come back, I'd get them in the door. My mom would close them. So that would then, I went to community college, did that, went away to college, went to Stockton, got a biology degree.
Nice.
Came out, Mike J back in the day. So met him at the gym, so, and then he got me in the mortgage business. So that's how we got, and that was actually H&R Block right in 2000, I think.
Okay.
We're only there for a couple months, and Christine Beckwith, I think, was there. Didn't meet her at the time, but I knew her after from talking.
Yep.
And then we're right over to Amherst and started there.
So you in 2000, we're talking about you're how old? Mid-20s?
Yeah, mid-20s.
Okay.
Yep.
So mid-20s, and he's underselling. His mom, Kathy Hutchison, is a legend in South Jersey. She was a top real estate agent. She was a broker owner for many years.
For years. Yeah, she was Century 21, I think, originally. She started back with Jim Saxton, congressman. So Jim Saxton Realty had that for a while, went to Century 21. I remember going up to California to get the franchise. Coming back, then she got rid of the franchise, just became Kathy Hutchison Realty for a lot of years. And then, kind of got rid of the brokerage and just kind of doing her thing at Remax for years now still.
So she raised you mostly as a single mom.
Yep.
So you're seeing this your mom, entrepreneur, hard driver, managing people, doing all this stuff. And you wanted to get into this business?
Yeah, that's what she says. That's what she said. I remember having a conversation actually when I went over to Amherst, and I didn't know what I was getting into. You know what I mean? So with the whole mortgage thing being new, and she's like, I was like, you get the little salary, right? And then small bips on your loans and all that, or you can go full commission. I'm like, well, I'm going full commission. I remember having my, talk with my mom about it. She's like, she was just nervous for me,
Yeah.
So I went full commission, and then I didn't close a loan for 6 months.
Oof.
And that's when Martone pulled me in. I don't know if we can have that conversation here or not if you want to, but it's pretty funny. So he's like, hey, we didn't close anything for 6 months, right? And he's like, dude, he goes, what'd you do? He's like, come here, come in my office. I'm like, all right. So we go in there and
wait, hold on a second. I got to paint the picture.
Yeah.
So Mike Martone was our first sales manager. This guy is a badass, like total sales novice, like just unbelievable badass Marine. And he's a hardcore manager. Like he's a really hardcore guy, old school. They don't make him like they made Mike Martone.
Yeah, exactly. 100%, man. He was awesome. So he's like, he's like, Hutch, he's like, come in my office. I got to talk to you. I'm like, all right, man. So we go in there. He's like, dude, he goes, what did you do before this? I said, well, I sold cars. He goes, well, you did really good. I said, yeah, I was a top salesman before I came in here, like months in a row. He goes, what's the difference between what you did there and what you're doing now? I'm like, I don't know. He's like, well, when you're selling cars, they can see, you're a big, nice guy and people like you. You're likable.
Yeah.
And he goes, and you would sell cars. I said, oh, I get it. He goes, over here. He goes, you're on the phone. He's like, you sound like a I was like, oh, shit. I was like, okay. And I'm like, because it's all new. Sales over the phone. It's a reflection in your voice, how you come across and all that stuff. And I didn't know how to sell over the phone. I was just real timid and all that. So after that talk, I had a lot of practice to do, but I think after coming over, got my, on a roll there, started closing after that,
So. Hutch was like, he had the sales record, was a top producer.
Until you came.
Then we started competing a little bit, but like, I remember looking back and when I came in the organization, Hutch was revered, one of the top guys there. So from that point to, the time we, our paths crossed, what was your, when you look back at those times pre-financial crisis, like for people that a lot of people weren't in the business then, what was your biggest learning lesson or takeaway from those years versus like what happened and afterwards?
Yeah, I remember first thing thinking is just like the loan products that were available, right? So I remember doing what's called the true no doc loan and getting into, who was that? Greenpoint?
Greenpoint.
Yep, Greenpoint, 5% down, no MI, 620 credit score, no appraisal, or no, yeah. What was it? No, you just had appraisal and title and close. It was no income, no asset, no job. The application was completely blank. I'm like, this doesn't seem real.
Yeah.
Right. And you get 7.5% loan with no MI, and anybody could get a loan. So at that point, you really had to have ethics at the time too, because, that's when things started getting crazy with those type of loans.
Yeah.
And I remember, somebody, cashier I was working with wanted to get a loan, and I could have got it for her, with one of those loans, but they're going to go right to foreclosure. So some people would get pissed off, and there's obviously a lot of people would still do those loans just to get paid.
Yeah.
I couldn't cross that boundary, man. So but going back, I think the rules and regulators were none.
It was the wild, wild west.
Wild, wild west. It was just like anybody could get a loan. You're doing it for drug dealers, strippers, whatever.
You name it. Yeah.
And it was easy. I would say that's probably the biggest takeaway there.
Yeah, I think one of the wake-up calls, like, listen, I got in the business when I was 18 years old. So it was the wild, wild west. And, like, I always look back and look at them like I was raised by wolves. The guys we work for. So, like, we were taught how to be killer salespeople. But for me, the wake-up call came at some point where I was doing loans for this one guy in Salinas, California. And, like, the guy was self-employed. Actually, he wasn't self-employed, but he was commissioned, and he would do a cash out refi on his property like every 6 months, 50 grand, 75. The value of the home kept going up at a rate where this guy could do a cash out refi and take equity out every 6 months for like 2.5 years.
Right.
And then I remember when the appraisal came in short, and this was a full doc loan, the whole nine. So he qualified for the loan, but the appraisal part of it was the crazy part. And, he went for his like sixth cash out refi in year 3, and the appraisal came in like 120 grand short. And I was like, hey man, like what's going on out there on property value? She's like, oh, this is BS appraisal. We got to get another one done. We got another one done. It came in like 30 grand shorter. And I remember at that point, I was like, oh, this is because, I'd only been in the business. We were new. You got in 2000, I got in 2003. Yep. We didn't have a track record. We didn't know what was coming. And I think like looking back, it's like, it's obvious now that it was going to happen because of the quality of the people getting loans and the lack of rules and everything. But that was my wake-up call before the wake-up call. And then a couple of years later, obviously the bottom fell out, the financial crash happened. So what did you do through that process?
I remember that was tough. So that was like, I remember like 2007-ish. When we had about a group of us, like 5 of us, actually went up to New York. We started working in New York at refinance.com. So for some reason up there, that was like a 1-year delay, it seemed like, where they're still doing business up there. So we would take that commute. I lived in my house in Delran. Everybody's going through a rough patch. We have like 4 or 5 guys living in my house. We would take, a half-hour ride to the train station, hour on the train, then the subway, then we'd walk there, right? And then you're all day there. So it was like, 2 over 2.5 hour commute each way every day for like a year. So it worked out for a little bit of time, but they would buy portfolios of loans up there. And it was probably crazy. They were doing principal reductions like real ones, but the hardest part was getting people to believe it was real.
Because there were so many like modifications at that time.
So many modifications happening. And we would call these people up and be like, hey, listen, we own your loan now. We're going to give you a principal reduction of $100,000. What do we have to do? Nothing, just refinance. So until we had like things put in place to where they could verify the information, because they don't know who you're calling,
Yeah.
But there's some people, I remember there was one lady that was like 250,000 and she just kept hanging up every time. I'm like, man, if she only.
Yeah, you guys were going to forgive 200.
And eventually that went away. So that was just like a niche for a little bit there. And then eventually that went down. Then I took off to, I was married for a little bit, a very short marriage for like 6 months. That ended. Went down to Houston for like 3 years and just kind of took a little hiatus, did some random stuff down there like debt consolidation. Still had my mortgage license, but didn't use it much.
Yeah.
Just kind of hitting a reset button, on
the whole
crisis.
Yeah.
So, and I had a great time, came back after like 2-3 years, I think in 2011-ish, came back and, started getting my feet back in the mortgage.
That's when our paths crossed again. So yes. We started Garden State Home Loans at that point. And I think you partnered up with Shaddy.
Yes.
And that's kind of where we started talking the first time.
Yep.
And later on, obviously a couple of years later, you came on, that's when we really started working together at Garden State Home Loans.
Yep. Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about, obviously a long, illustrious career in the mortgage industry. We could go on all day long with stories. We have them for days.
Exactly. Yeah, some good ones. Yeah.
But so, let's talk about where you're at today. Like first and foremost, married, kids. Let's, what does all that look like?
Yeah, I got married met my wife in 2015. As soon as I met her, obviously I was doing mortgages then, right? Met her, give you a little background here too. Was obviously doing the mortgages, opened an insurance agency in 2015.
Yep.
And she thought, and this is literally probably the first month we met. I was like, and to open an insurance agency, you got to get 4 licenses. So usually it takes about a month for you to get 1 license. I got 1 license per week. So she didn't even see me. So I just put my head down, get my property, casualty, life, health, opened a branch up. I think I was the fastest to open one in Farmers.
Holy cow.
And did that, opened that up, end up getting married. She had a daughter who was 4 years old, Anna's now 16. So, but fast forward in a little bit, I had the insurance agency, she got, 2017 was when my first daughter was born. So I got 4 kids now. So Crew's 4, Trey is 8, and Allie's 9, and Anna's 16 now.
Wow.
So just, full of sports and, running around and all that stuff, which, keeps me getting my ass back in the gym.
But it keeps you young too.
Oh, dude, it keeps you young. I had to, because we've known each other forever. I've always, worked out and all that stuff, but like as you get older, you fall off a little bit. And that's why I was like, but I still always went, maybe not as hard as I used to, like 3 days a week I was going, but like, that's why I like this group with the Whoop. I'm like, all right, you know what I mean?
The accountability
Aspect is, I think that comes down to my work too. And we'll get into that, I'm sure, in a little bit too, which, I
I think we all do, man. I think, listen, there's definitely, I think we all go through phases where we're super dialed and super focused and all those things, but there's also phases where like, you need a little bit of support, you need a little bit of accountability. And I think both in the health front and in the work front, just being able to have some other people that are trying to accomplish some of the same goals, pushing you, making sure like, when you have an off day, I'll send you a message and be like, yo, what's going on, man? Yep. And then I'll get messages if I'm just taking a rest day, and I'll get a message like, oh, you giving up or whatever. I was like,
well, I started laughing. You texted me that one time. You're like, put your wristband back on. I'm like, shit, it's been on for 3 days. I just haven't been doing anything.
That's hilarious.
So I was like, all right, I really got to do something now. But that's what stress thing is that low on there. So that was I laughed at that though. I was like, but I needed that too. It was just one of those things where it's like whatever goes on, everybody's get different stresses in your life and whatever it is. Maybe you fall in a lull or you miss that one day, it turns into 2. Then you're like, it's one of those to just get back on.
Yeah,
that's been the biggest thing for me. When I fall off, it's taking a little bit longer to get on. Getting better at it.
I think it's hard, man. I mean, with kids, like honestly, for me. I know my kids are all grown at this point. You're in the thick of it. Yep. And that's what can be hard because like, listen, like, if you don't work out in the morning after work, you're taking sports, this, that, the other thing. By the time you get home, it's really hard.
Exactly. Trying to find that work-life balance, always playing in my head, like, it's making sure I got time for the kids and you obviously got to work, and you got to feed the family and take care of everything first. That's like number 1.
Yeah.
Right? And then, building those core memories too with them when they're so young.
Yes.
So, and that's where like getting dialed in, being disciplined and, more consistent. That has been my battle over the years, which, I've obviously gotten better at it, but I still need to dial that in more.
Yeah.
So, but I think working at home, It's tough. I remember we talked about this too a few months ago. How you doing working at home? I'm like, oh, good, doing better. And I was in that one group too.
Yeah.
Accountability there every day. So that was nice. And then after that, I found myself coming back and forth again. So just getting back in that.
Yeah.
Being more consistent, disciplined.
I mean, I think it's one of the challenges that a lot of people face, and I think it's applicable to all of our sales people that are going to watch this are going to look at this and be like, man, I've gone through that. For me, what I've seen with a couple of the loan officers here that I've worked with, Nicole, for example, I've kind of focused on with her of like, hey, like, let's just start with like, forget the work habits. What are the core habits that you need to do for you to have a productive day? And I think like at the end of the day, it's like, it kind of comes down to the same things. If you have a good night of sleep, get a workout in the morning, even if it's just a walk, like it doesn't need to be something crazy. Eat well throughout the day, those are the types of things.
Exactly. Yeah, the workouts are huge. I mean, for me, especially, and then a lot of people that might not, have done. I remember Nicole, when she first started, she said she's not a runner. And I saw that one video. She's just sitting there running and talking. I'm like,
it's crazy.
Yeah, it was like, look at her go now. Like it doesn't take a whole. It's just, what was your line the other day? Discipline beats motivation every day. Right?
Yeah,
and it's true. And I'm still, again, that's still things I'm working on. Is being more disciplined. In the moment there, just more consistent.
Yeah. So for you right now, you're, when we worked together at Garden State Home Loans, you made the move over here. You still had the insurance brokerage, at that point when you made the, like, you were kind of like still in it, but not like really managing it. Right now, what's your, how have you worked through building your business back up post insurance business and like kind of just getting back into, this being your primary thing?
Right. Yeah. So I think, that was the biggest, I think, having the conversation again, just having the extra time, not knowing exactly what to do and figuring out a game plan where to get back. It was like, okay, I have all this time, but what do I do at the time? Right?
Yeah.
Who do I call? I was having trouble, trying to get organized there. But once I saw like the weekly playbook of, Mondays, you're prospecting, Tuesdays, whether it's calling past realtors or updating.
Yeah.
And just being consistent and making those calls every day made a big difference. For me, what I think made the biggest difference was, I have a pretty big past client book.
Yeah.
Just reconnecting with these. And some of these people, I mean, I had one from Garden State Home Loans. I found that list.
Nice.
After I had my knee surgery back in December, I was kind of like, off for like a month with all the, painkillers and all that stuff that had me down. But like after that, I came back and just started making those calls. And you'd be surprised how many people you'd even have, 2-3% interest rates.
Yep.
Needed to get some equity out to, do some refi. So
100%.
4 or 5 right after that. And I was like, all right, yeah, I guess I need to, start making these calls.
Dude, and you have 30 years, at this point, 25 years of a database. Like, I mean, especially, going back to what you said earlier, like, you're somebody people remember. Like, you go to a closing, you build that relationship. If you get a referral from your mom, it's like they remember both of you guys. And you said your mom has 4 generations of clients. For you, like, what's been the most eye-opening or the most, beneficial part of those sales theme days, or the things that you've kind of worked on that you've seen the biggest reward of?
Past clients for me, definitely biggest reward for calling it, because a lot of those, you already did business with them before. So they already know, like, and trust you, right? I think is number one in sales, right? So when you go back to those people and they're like, oh, Dave, I remember you, and so you have that trust factor there. But also, I think that would be number one, but going into things I wasn't doing before at all. So now I have all these new tools. Oh, wait, we can, let's make Monday, prospecting calls. And, I signed up with Redder and you get the list, and, I have to do that more. It's not one of those things you hear a lot of people. I think, I forget the girl you did a couple, weeks ago, but she's, nobody likes doing those calls.
Yeah.
But it's like, get out and do them. Right. So
you just have to do them.
You just got to do them. And then I never really did, like, having set days to call, your current realtor partners for, maybe market updates. So I didn't even really have that. But when I seen all these other guys doing it, and it's like, it's pretty straightforward and simple. It's just being consistent, right? And going through it. And even calling, your clients that are in the pipeline now for, hey, see, you got all your pre-approvals out. Hey, how you guys making out? Like, let's touch base, because how many pre-approvals have you lost? And you find out a month or two later, they close with somebody else.
100%.
Had that happen, so, but that saves some too, so it's just adding those extra ones in, which I really never did before. So for me, the past clients were pretty easy, but adding those others in, which I, all these years, still learning.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's one of those things. It's easy to do, but it's easy not to do. So it's like I think that's the biggest challenge that a lot of people have. It's like they're like, I'm not gonna do it this week. I'll do it next week. Yep. Problem is, like to your point, it's like once you get off track with it, it's so easy for it to go from 1 week to a 1 month really quickly.
It turns into a week, then a month, and you're like, oh,
what happened? What's your biggest learning lesson over these last 10 years? When you look back at, this last decade, things that you look back, you're like, man, if I would have done that within the business realm, if I would have done that differently, or, I see that other LOs are doing X, Y, and Z, that's a great strategy.
My biggest regret over time from getting into business is not having a database and knowing how important it was. Because going back all those years, there's only so much data you can pull from. And are those people going to remember you from 15 years ago? But if I had that and ran my business like a business, right, a little bit more, that's my biggest regret. Because that's your core of
everything
right there. So that would be my biggest regret. So it's not maybe taking that more seriously. And you hear back then, keep your database together, reach out to them and do all those follow-ups. But I wasn't the best at that.
Yeah. And I couldn't agree with you more. I think right now, like for any loan officer to grow their business consistently over a long period of time, you have to be turning your past customers either into referral sources or into new customers. And it's that's where I see like a lot of LOs make the mistake of just staying so purchase focused, where it's like, man, you got this gold mine you've built, but you're not mining it.
Yeah, and putting time aside, like even if like a 6-month follow-up, then they'll always remember you, So these are things that, continuing to learn.
100%. So let's talk a little bit about you. We talked a little bit before we got started, down 35, 40 pounds. How are you feeling? How, what's the second half of 2026 look like for you?
Well, good. Well, we got that marathon coming up in December. So my goal is, listen, so to kind of fill everybody in here. So, I'm not a runner, right? So I signed, when I saw everybody sign, I like the idea of being part of a group that's like 40 people, right? And everybody holding each other, because I was, again, always worked out, but I always worked out by myself. But being in this group and motivates you, sees everybody. There's a lot of high performers in there, that are doing, like you're doing this, the challenge for Mount Everest. A couple other guys. And I thought that was amazing. And then, but being in that group, and being consistent with the gym, getting out, and, with my knees, I had, college, I tore my ACL, MCL, meniscus. That took years. I had like 2 full knee replacements. So the last one was done in December. This one was done like 5 years ago. And the thing is, real quick with the surgeon, they're like, oh, you're too young to get that done. I'm like, I got to keep up with my kids.
Yeah.
I don't care. They're like, I'm older, but I got a 4-year-old, So it's like, but I don't want to be the older guy that can't do anything with their kids.
Yes.
So I never knew if I'd fully be able to run again. And then, I got on my first jog like 2 weeks ago. So, and actually my kids had a hard time keeping up. Not that I was fast or anything. I went 2.5 miles, jog, walk, and that would be my goal for, even though I signed it because you're the guy to do that. I'm like, well, listen, I looked up the rules. If I can make my goals, then make the 3.5 hours, right?
You're good.
Yeah, that's it. So, but overall, yes, I feel great. Gym for me has always been in my life, part of a major part of my life.
Yeah.
Because to me, when I don't get it, my head's not right.
Yeah.
I feel as good, not as focused, so I always liked, big and strong. I'm not going that route anymore. Even though I still am, but it's like I want to get down to a nice lean, like 240 or whatever. Maybe 230 if I can get there.
Yeah, it changes everything. Like when I first met Hutch, I mean, how tall are you? 6'6"?
6'5".
So 6'5". He, I mean, at his peak, we're talking about 25 years ago, 20 years ago. Hutch was like built like a middle linebacker for the football team. Like he was just jacked, ripped, and just a total animal. So like obviously now, you got young kids. It's all about longevity, right? It's all about the
health and, functionality and all that stuff, so I'm trying to change my workouts up and figuring out new things. But again, watching a group too, I'm seeing the things that everybody else is kind of doing, right? So the functional fitness, the Stairmaster you're doing for 2 hours, so it's like the cardio was never a major factor for me, but I'm making that more of a point now. So I'm working at it. Before it was always, hey, how much weight can I lift? But, your body doesn't hold up to that, and there's no reason to be, that big. I'm not playing for a team. I'm not, going to perform anywhere.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I think just overall good health.
I've rocked, so I wear a weighted vest, when that's how I lost most of my weight. And I remember at one point I was rucking one day and I had lost like at that point like 35 pounds, and I was wearing a 30-pound vest. And Tyler Hutchison said to me in a text, he's like, dude, he's like, can you believe you used to carry that around normally? Like that was like, you're right now, you're doing a workout and you used to just carry that around all the time. And I think about that. I'm just like, man, like that's like, I mean, I am exhausted after wearing a 30-pound vest now and going out and walk for an hour. I carry that around my whole day. And then I think back, I'm like, man, when I really think about that, it's like, that's why I was always so tired. That's why I was like, you know, sometimes like just feeling like after 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I was feeling like mentally checked out, where now I'm just like, I feel really, really good.
Yeah.
So, you know, for you, you know, with everything you have going on and with your goals in life, you know, how do you unwind? How do you take some time away from work, and how do you, you know, spend quality time with your family?
Yeah. So usually, you know, after, you know, everybody gets home, and sports are a challenge, you know, because everybody's in sports, even my 4-year-old, you know, but getting everybody here to there. But I always make sure I got at least 2 to 3 hours, right? Whether it's like, you know, everybody's coming back, and, you know, sometimes my one daughter won't get done, you know, she's in 3rd grade, doesn't get home until 9 o'clock sometimes.
Wow.
And that's bedtime for most people. I'm like, she showers, eats, and all that gets ready. You know, we want to spend some time on the couch together. So I always make sure to have time no matter what in that respect.
Yeah.
But always on the weekends when we have, we're always out doing something.
Nice.
Whether it's like going to the beach, or, you know, trying to find fun things to do on the weekends, or take a little day trips or something like that, just to build those, you know,
core memories. Yeah.
So that's my biggest focus, trying to do as much as I can with them.
Your mom was telling us some, like, we went to lunch a couple months ago. Your mom was telling some stories about the mountain house that you guys had.
Yeah.
So what was the one story that she was telling with the something got on the roof? Was
Deer on the roof?
Yeah. You got to tell
we
story.
did. We did some crazy there. So it's like, so a little context. So back before 1990, we all had our quads, and it was a private community, and my mom would drop me off for the whole summer. So, and I'd be staying with, like, you know, my friend who's like 18. You know, we would party in the woods. We had bonfire. She thinks she's getting me away from all that stuff, you know, back home or whatever. So, but it wasn't like crazy. But anyway, we're like, you know, my one friend got his dad's station wagon, and we're going out through this road, and we find a dead deer on the side of the road. Like, came up with it, let's just take it home, and we're like, for what? So we pick it up, we put it on top of the car. We're holding the legs on the way home, like trying to bring it back. Next day, everybody comes over our house, right? And I'm like, you know, I used to go deer hunting, so we skinned it, and I was like, all right, I'm going to make it, you know, a little, you know, vest or whatever out of it, you know what I mean? But so I put it on the roof to dry it out with some salt on it and everything. But all the you know, innards of the deer were in the woods, and when the wind would blow, it smells like summertime. So my mom comes up, and I guess I was out when she came up there. She wasn't up there the whole summer, and the wind was blowing. The house smelled because the wind from the dead deer was just blowing in there, right? So she's like, what's that smell? And I'm like, oh, it's probably the deer on the roof. That's probably her favorite story to tell. You know, she still tells it to this day, but it was literally, so I don't know if it was actually the skin that was smelling as much that was on the roof, you know,
or the body
it was the body in the woods, not too far away, but still, it's just you know, the whole story in of itself.
It's a much funnier story.
Well, yeah, when she
tells it.
Yeah. She can tell it a lot better. You know, so it's
That's awesome.
From her perspective, right?
So we've got 5 core values. Obviously, we talk about, you know, own the moment, relationships, not transactions, get better every day, experiences everything, and create strong communities. For you, what value do you see yourself connected with the most, and also, like, you know, outside of work, you connect with it in your personal life?
I think relationships over transactions, like, number one. Right? It's like, you know, building those relationships. It's not just you're dealing with family, right, and people. It's not just a transaction. So, you know, the home purchase is, like, you know, the biggest transaction in most people's lives, you know. So, you know, taking that seriously, and then a lot of emotions, especially I love working with first-time home buyers, probably my favorite, you know, and especially with people that never thought they could get a home before, those tough ones.
Yeah.
And I actually enjoy those now even more. You know, you can get it's a tough deal, but they get in there crying at closing, just happy, you know. It's just something that you're always going to remember. So, but I think the relationships over the years are what does it, you know.
Do you still, I mean, over the years of, you know, obviously mortgage, I mean, going back to being in business in 2000, relationships wise with people you work with, have you maintained relationships with a lot of people you work with over the years?
Not a whole lot of strong, but ones where actually, yes, we'll go, yes. There's one guy, you know, that I remember closing probably about 6 years ago. And he came down from New York, and his first thing, he didn't know anything that was around here, right? But this is a perfect example of relationships. So he comes down, hit it off. He's like, oh man, you got to tell me where the best pizza is. I'm like, all right. So we always talked about pizza, but now to this day, he just called me a couple of weeks ago for an attorney. Anything he needs, he calls me. You know, whether it's like, hey, do you know a good attorney for this? My son just got a speeding ticket. Do you know anybody that can help me out, or just random stuff?
Yeah.
You know, so. But yeah, over the years, certain relationships like that where you kind of keep, not where you're like, you know, we're best friends or anything like that, but where we're still in contact over the years for certain things, whether I'm helping him out as somebody new in the area or.
That's awesome. That's awesome, man. Well, this has been an incredible weekly team member spotlight. If you don't know Dave Hutchison, please follow him on Instagram or on Facebook. Any last comments you want to share with everybody?
I appreciate you having me on, man.
This has been awesome.
Yeah.
Honestly, this could have gone, this could have been the longest podcast ever.
Exactly.
But it's great seeing you, man. I'm grateful to work together every day, and obviously looking forward to running this half marathon together.
Dude, looking forward to it, brother.
Absolutely.
All right.
Thanks, guys. Have a great day.